The black void of space wrapped around the Resolute like an endless ocean. Commander Elias Reyes stared through the cracked cockpit glass at the massive structure ahead. The obelisk no longer stood still. It was alive now, spinning slowly, its red lines glowing brighter and brighter. It had recognized him as a challenger. This was Phase 3. The first 2 trials were meant to break a ship. The third trial was designed to break the pilot, far away. In the Galactic Council's Great Hall, thousands of alien leaders remained glued to the giant projection. No one laughed now. No one whispered jokes. Every breath in the chamber felt heavy, as if they were standing on the same battlefield with him. The speaker's calm voice echoed through the chamber. Phase 3. Core Run. The Core Run was legendary. The obelisk would create a storm of energy beams, moving faster than thought. Pilots would need to fly through a maze of shifting walls, heat flares, and gravity traps. Even with advanced AI and entire fleets, most species failed here. No single pilot had ever survived it, and yet one human sat alone in a small, worn ship and smiled. Reyes tapped the console. Several lights blinked in protest. He spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. "I know you're tired, girl," he said to the ship. "But so am I. Let's finish what we started." The engines answered with a low rumble. The first energy beams shot out from the obelisk, like red spears cutting through the dark. They moved fast, too fast. A direct hit would burn through his hull like paper. Reyes twisted the Resolute to the right, then down, spinning through the gap between 2 beams. The edges of the ship scraped against the energy, leaving a glowing scar. Alarms screamed. The ship shook violently. Reyes gritted his teeth. Back in the council hall, a reptilian general slammed his claw on the table. "He should be dead." "Yet he lives," replied a soft, crystal-voiced ambassador. "Humans are strange." More beams fired. Reyes pulled the thrusters, forcing the Resolute into a tight spiral. The ship was not built for this kind of fight. It was old. It was small. But it was fast. And Reyes trusted it like a part of his own body. The maze appeared ahead. Black walls slid out from the obelisk, creating a labyrinth of floating steel plates and glowing red gates. Each gate opened and closed in random sequences. Each wall shifted positions like a puzzle that hated being solved. Reyes had seconds to read it. His breathing slowed. When he was a kid, he used to ride broken trains back on Earth, racing with his friends down old subway tunnels. He had learned how to feel the rhythm of a machine, to trust his hands more than his eyes. That same instinct flowed through him now. He dove into the maze. The Resolute shot through the first gate just as it closed behind him. A burst of plasma heat flashed past his tail. He rolled the ship sideways, sliding between 2 spinning walls. The distance between them was less than a meter. "Evasive pattern, Delta," whispered Reyes. But he wasn't following any preset pattern. He was making it up as he went. Above the hall, the alien leaders watched in silence. "This is not possible," said an android captain, its blue eye blinking faster than normal. "No organic pilot can calculate that fast." "It's not calculating," said the insectoid queen softly. "He's feeling it." The maze became tighter. Beams flew faster. The obelisk reacted like a living predator, learning from his every move, adapting to his tricks. It changed gate patterns mid-flight. It twisted the gravity fields around the ship. It tried to crush him, but Reyes did not stop. He leaned forward, sweat sliding down his forehead. The ship shuddered as the artificial gravity inside warped. His stomach twisted, but he didn't let go. He whispered the same words he had whispered since the start. "Not today." A massive steel wall closed in front of him. There was no time to turn. No way out. Reyes hit the reverse thrusters, flipped the ship upside down, and scraped along the wall's edge. The hull screamed like a wounded animal, but the Resolute slid through a small service gap the obelisk had not sealed in time. The crowd gasped as the ship reappeared on the other side. The speaker's usually calm voice shook a little. "This has never happened before." Reyes didn't hear them. He didn't need to. He was locked in, fully alive, every sense focused. Back on Earth, Billions watched. Children in crowded cities pressed their faces to screens. Old soldiers who had fought in forgotten wars clenched their fists. Even the quietest corners of space stations echoed with a single chant, "Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop." The obelisk released its next weapon. Red orbs of pure energy floated out from its core, surrounding Reyes like glowing suns. Then they started spinning, forming a storm of plasma. The temperature spiked. Warnings flashed across the console. Heat shield failure. Reyes flicked switches, rerouting power. "Come on," he whispered. "Hold together." The hull glowed red. Parts of the outer plating melted away. The cockpit's temperature climbed, burning the edges of his gloves. He flew through the storm, weaving between orbs that could vaporize him in an instant. One of them exploded near the right wing. The ship spun. Reyes slammed the control stick. The Resolute flipped upside down, spun again, then leveled out. The right wing was cracked. Warning lights blinked everywhere. He laughed, not because it was funny, because he was still alive. In the council chamber, the Varkesh warlord stood up, his tusks shining. "What kind of creature laughs at death?" "Human," answered the crystallite ambassador. The android whispered calculations. "He cannot last. His hull integrity is below 30%. One more hit, but Reyes did not stop. The maze was behind him now. He approached the heart of the obelisk, a glowing sphere, brighter than any star he had seen. It pulsed like a heartbeat. This was the final part of Phase 3, the energy core run. To reach it, he had to cross the pulse field. The pulse field was a curtain of raw power. It grew stronger with every step forward. Ships with advanced shields had melted here. Whole fleets had turned to dust. Reyes gripped the controls tighter. He could feel the ship shaking just from the energy waves hitting it. His console flickered. "Warning. Energy levels critical. Engine output at maximum limit. Abort recommended." He shook his head. "Sorry, not today." He pushed the thrusters. The Resolute roared forward. The pulse field slammed into the hull like a giant hammer. Alarms screamed in his ears. Panels cracked. Sparks flew. The cockpit shook like an earthquake. But Reyes kept pushing. The alien audience rose to their feet. "He can't make it," said one. "No one can," said another. "Then watch him," whispered a human diplomat. Reyes's vision blurred. His hands ached. His heartbeat thundered. The ship screamed around him, but it was still flying. He thought about his people, the billions watching back home. He thought about every time humanity had been told they were too weak, too small, too late. He thought about every wall that said you can't pass. And he whispered, "Watch me." The pulse field flared. A final wave of energy struck the ship. The hull cracked open. Alarms howled. The ship began to spin wildly. Reyes didn't panic. He let go of fear. He steadied his breath, twisted the manual control system, and used the broken wing to swing into the last current of the pulse field. It was like surfing the edge of a storm. The ship shot. Through the glowing curtain, black smoke trailing behind, the council chamber exploded in noise. Some aliens shouted in disbelief. Some stood frozen. Others simply stared. The speaker slowly stood. "He has entered the core. No one has done this alone." The obelisk's red light flickered. Its ancient systems, built by an unknown race, began to respond to something they had never felt before: human will. The glowing core pulsed like a living heart. Instead of firing another attack, it seemed to pause. To observe, Reyes breathed heavily. The cockpit smelled of burned wires. His gloves were half melted. He looked out at the blinding light. "I'm here," he whispered. "Now what?" In the Galactic Council, the Insectoid Queen leaned closer to the screen. It hesitated. "Machines do not hesitate," the android said flatly. "This one just did." She answered. The Varkesh warlord growled softly. "This human has made the obelisk think." The speaker nodded slowly. "No, General. He has made it remember." The obelisk's core began to change shape. The glowing red softened to white, then blue. energy lines rearranged like veins of light. The entire structure groaned as if awakening from a long sleep. Reyes stared at it, confused but unafraid. His hand hovered over the control stick. His ship was broken, but still alive. Just like him, Earth's transmission filled the cabin. A young operator's voice cracked with emotion. "Commander, you did it. You're inside." Reyes smiled weakly. "Not done yet. Don't throw the party. Your ship won't survive another wave," Mission Control said. "You need to, I know," Reyes interrupted. "But we didn't come here to survive." The ship floated closer to the core. Blue light wrapped around it like a slow tide. The console blinked, but no alarm sounded this time. The obelisk wasn't attacking anymore. It was. Listening in the council hall, alien eyes of every shape and color stared in stunned silence. Entire empires had tried to crush this machine with their strength. Humanity had done it with one person who refused to stop. The speaker broke the silence. "This changes everything." The insectoid queen folded her wings tightly. "This is only the beginning," the android whispered calculations. "If the obelisk accepts him, humanity will be different." The Varkesh warlord growled. "More dangerous?" The core of the obelisk glowed like a blue star. The light was soft but strong, filling the small cockpit of the Resolute. Commander Elias Reyes sat in his pilot seat, hands steady on the controls, breathing slowly. The ship creaked like an old house. Warning lights still blinked red, but they no longer screamed. Outside, the storm of energy had calmed. For the first time since the trial began, the silence felt almost peaceful. But Reyes knew it wasn't over. Far away, in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, the alien leaders stood in complete silence. The giant projection filled the entire room with the image of the human ship floating inside the glowing heart of the Ancient. Machine, the speaker's silver eyes were wide. "No fleet has ever reached the core," he whispered. The insectoid queen's wings folded close to her body. And yet, one human did. The Varkesh warlord, once full of laughter, now sat with his tusks pressed together, his face dark. He had mocked humanity just an hour ago. Now, he stared like a student watching a lesson he didn't understand. "Look at the obelisk," said the crystal-eyed ambassador softly. "It's changing." Inside the obelisk, the light around the Resolute pulsed slowly. The walls were no longer cold black steel. They were smooth, like living crystal. Symbols began to appear on the surface, glowing lines that shifted like flowing water. Reyes didn't know the language, but he felt something in his chest. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was like standing at the edge of something bigger than himself. Mission Control's voice came through the broken radio. "Commander!" We're reading strange signals. "The obelisk is broadcasting in every direction." "All frequencies," Reyes answered. Voice rough, but calm. "Feels like it's waking up. Do you want to pull out?" Reyes laughed softly. "You really think I came all this way to turn around now?" The obelisk's light formed a shape in front of him. At first it was just a bright cloud, but slowly it became a tall figure, not solid, more like a shadow made of light. It had no mouth, no eyes, but somehow Reyes knew it was looking at him. "Identification," said a voice in his head. It wasn't English, but he understood it anyway. Reyes straightened in his seat. "Commander Elias Reyes, human, Earth." The figure tilted its head slightly, as if curious. "Single unit. No fleet? Why?" Reyes smirked tiredly. "Because that's what we do, show up, even when no one believes we can." "Purpose?" the voice asked. Reyes thought for a moment. He could say power. He could say honor. But that wasn't it. He looked at the blue light and spoke the truth, to prove we're not weak. To prove we belong out here. The figure stepped closer, its light brighter now. "Many species tried, many failed. Why? Do you not stop?" Reyes closed his eyes for a second. He remembered all the faces back home. Children in the cities. Workers in ships. Soldiers who had never seen Earth again. He remembered every wall humans had broken through just to stand among the stars. Because stopping isn't who we are, he said softly. We keep going. That's humanity. For a long moment, the figure said nothing. The entire core seemed to listen. Then the light expanded outward, huge, bright, like the sun itself. In the council hall, alarms began to flash. The obelisk is sending energy pulses across the galaxy, shouted a technician. Is it attacking? Asked the warlord, his claws digging into the metal desk. No, the android replied, running calculations at high speed. It's transmitting a message. The speaker turned to the human ambassador. What is your pilot doing? The ambassador looked at the screen, eyes shining. He's not attacking. He's talking. Inside the cockpit, the voice spoke again. Human, you are different. Reyes raised an eyebrow. Different good or different bad? Different. Alive. The blue light dimmed slightly, like a calm breath. Your kind walks where others kneel. You fight where others fall. You do not stop. Reyes chuckled. Yeah, that sounds like us. The trial was built to find a worthy one, the voice continued. The machine sleeps until strength wakes it. No fleet is passed. No army. Only you. A strange warmth spread through the cockpit as the blue light wrapped around the ship gently, not like a weapon, like a hand offering help. In the council chamber, chaos grew. Messages from different star systems arrived. Multiple stations are receiving obelisk signals. Energy signatures are everywhere. It's rewriting its old codes. The speaker's voice cut through the noise. Silence. Everyone stopped. The obelisk's energy stabilized. Its glowing lines formed a giant pattern in the sky, a map of stars brighter than any fleet. At the center of that map was Earth. The warlord's eyes widened. It chose them, the insectoid queen whispered. The machine of gods chose the humans. Reyes floated in the cockpit, staring at the glowing figure. What happens now? Now, the voice said, we remember. The blue light around him became brighter and brighter. Images flashed in his mind, not his memories, but the machines. He saw great ships made of light. He saw ancient builders, taller than mountains, shaping stars like clay. He saw their fall, a silent collapse into darkness. The obelisk had been alone for thousands of years, waiting for someone who wouldn't stop. You carry the spark, the voice said. You are chosen. Reyes laughed weakly. Me. I'm just a pilot, the voice pulsed brighter. And that is why. Back in the council chamber, the speaker stood tall. This is no longer a test. This is a transfer of power. The android's single blue eye flashed rapidly. The obelisk is connecting to human systems. Impossible, shouted the warlord. But the screens didn't lie. Streams of energy data linked the obelisk directly to Earth's network. What was once a dead monument was now moving like a living starship, and it had chosen humanity as its partner. The insectoid queen leaned forward. They were underestimated. Again, the figure in front of Rhea slowly faded into the core, but the voice remained. You may command the obelisk, it said. But know this, power is not for war. Power is for those who endure. I understand, Reyes replied. The blue light extended toward the Resolute. The broken hull began to glow. Cracks sealed themselves. Metal reshaped like water. In seconds, the ship looked reborn, still the same old Resolute, but stronger. Alive. Reyes looked around, amazed. Okay, that's new, Gift, the voice said. For those who do not stop. In the council hall, the projection zoomed out. The entire obelisk was no longer black. It was silver blue, shining like a second sun. Every alien in the chamber watched in silence. The speaker finally spoke. This moment will be remembered for centuries. The warlord stood, slow and heavy. Then let it be remembered. Humanity is not weak, Insectoid Queen added. They woke the machine we could not. The crystallite ambassador smiled softly. They did not win because of strength. They won because they refused to stop. Reyes adjusted his gloves and sat upright. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired, sweaty, and sore. But he was alive. The ship's new systems hummed like music. "Mission Control," he said. "I think we have a situation." "Up!" The operator's voice shook. "Commander!" "The whole galaxy is watching you," Reyes laughed. "No pressure, huh?" "You did it," the operator whispered. "You really did it." Reyes stared at the shining walls of the obelisk's core. "No, we did it. All of us." The speaker activated the main broadcast. Every corner of the galaxy could hear him. "Let it be known," he said, voice steady. "The trial of the obelisk has ended. Humanity stands where no one else has stood. They are now recognized not as a minor world, but as a starborn power." The council roared with mixed emotions. Some cheered. Some argued. Some simply stared. But no one could deny what they had seen. Reyes floated the ship out of the core. The obelisk's massive structure slowly turned, like a sleeping giant waking up after a long winter. It followed his movement like a loyal companion. "Commander Reyes," Mission Control said softly. "What does it feel like?" Reyes smiled faintly. "It feels like the whole universe just got a little bigger." The alien delegates began to speak all at once. The warlord growled, "This changes the balance." "If humans control the obelisk," the Queen interrupted. "They earned it," the android calculated. "Probability of human-led expansion now exceeds all projections." The speaker raised a hand for silence. "It is done." The machine chose, and perhaps it chose wisely. The human ambassador stood, shoulders straight. "We never asked for power. We just don't back down." The room fell silent again. Outside, the obelisk shone like a second star. The human ship hovered before it, small but unshakable. Reyes sat quietly, listening to the soft hum of the new systems. He felt something warm in his chest. Not pride, not arrogance, but something simpler. Hope. For centuries, humanity had looked up at the stars and wondered if they belonged there. And now, the stars had answered back. The voice of the obelisk echoed in his mind one last time. "Human, you do not stop. You move forward." Reyes closed his eyes and whispered, "That's what we do." The obelisk pulsed with blue light, a signal sent across the galaxy. It was not a threat. It was a promise. In the council chamber, the speaker spoke quietly to the crowd. "Remember this day," he said. "The day the unstoppable met the unmovable. And the unmovable moved." The Queen nodded. "The age of watching humans is over," the warlord grunted. "Now we will follow them, or be left behind." The android simply said, "New era begins." Reyes guided the Resolute away from the core, engines glowing bright blue. Behind him, the obelisk followed like a silent guardian. He looked out at the endless stars and whispered to no one. And everyone at once, "Don't stop." The war had burned across the stars for almost a decade. Humanity had fought many enemies, but none as strange as the machines that came from the dark. They were silent, merciless, and unstoppable. Their fleets swallowed planets like storms swallowing ships at sea. Humanity had lost too many soldiers already. Hope was fading. That was why the Alliance was born. It was not a friendship, not even close. It was a survival pact. Humanity and the Seraph Dominion had fought each other for years. The Seraph were tall, graceful, insect-like creatures with hard shells, silver eyes, and minds that spoke to one another without sound. The humans had once called them monsters. The Seraph had once called humans barbarians. But the machines didn't care about sides. They would kill everyone to make the alliance official. A single Seraph queen had boarded the human military ship Resolute. Her name was Queen Elira. She was young for a queen, but strong. She carried the authority of her entire hive. If something happened to her, the alliance would break apart before it could even begin, and so the humans decided to assign someone to guard her every hour, day and night. That someone was Elias Ward. Elias was a soldier who followed rules like they were carved in stone. He had been raised on military bases since childhood. His father had died in the border wars. His loyalty to the fleet was unshakable. To him, protecting the Queen wasn't an honor. It was a mission he couldn't afford to fail. He first saw her when the ship's shuttle bay doors opened. The Sereth ship floated into the hangar like a black arrowhead. The air shimmered as the temperature sensors adjusted to match the Sereth's preferred environment. She walked down the ramp slowly, surrounded by 2 Serath guards. Her long, jointed limbs moved with smooth grace. Her silver eyes glimmered in the harsh lights. The human crew stood silently. They weren't sure how to react. The Queen's presence felt both elegant and dangerous. Like a blade wrapped in silk, Sereth Queen Alira announced Captain Rains over the intercom. "Welcome aboard the Resolute. For the sake of our people, we stand united." The Queen tilted her head slightly. She didn't speak with her mouth. A soft translator device at her throat carried her voice in clear, calm English. "May this union hold, Captain Rains," she said. "For all our sakes." Elias stood at attention near the back, his posture stiff, his expression blank. But inside, his mind was alert. He had read the reports. Queens had powerful telepathic abilities. She could sense emotions, sometimes even control the weaker minds of her species. He didn't like that. He preferred clean lines, clear rules, predictable missions. This was anything but predictable. Later, in the captain's briefing room, the mission was explained. "There's been an attempted infiltration of the Sereth delegation on another ship," Rain said, his face tight. "The machines are sending agents humans and Sereth under their control. We can't afford a repeat here. That's why the Queen will be under constant protection." He turned his gaze to Elias. "Ward, she's your responsibility. You'll guard her quarters. No one in or out without my direct order." Elias gave a firm nod. "Understood, sir." The captain hesitated for a moment, then added, "Her security wing isn't fully ready. The engineers are fixing the climate regulators. For now. You'll have to stay inside her quarters with her." Elias blinked once, slow. "Inside?" "Yes. There's no other safe place," Rain said. "If something goes wrong, you'll be the first and last line of defense." Elias didn't complain. He never did. But as he left the room, he thought quietly to himself, "This is going to be a long mission, the Queen's quarters." We're at the heart of the diplomatic section. The walls were smooth and pale, built from an alloy that could resist almost any known weapon. 2 security doors stood between the hallway and her room, both guarded by armed Marines. Elias passed through each checkpoint, scanning his badge and letting the door slide shut behind him. Inside, the room was dim. The Sereth preferred softer lighting than humans. The air was warm, humid, almost like a rainforest. A long, low resting platform sat against the wall. A control panel flickered quietly near the door. Queen Alira stood near the window, staring at the endless stretch of stars. She wore no crown, no armor only, a simple black garment that covered her frame. Her movements were slow and deliberate, as if she were studying every breath of the room. Elias stood near the door, arms crossed behind his back. "You are the guard," she said, her translator making the words sound soft and distant. "Yes," Elias replied. His voice was flat, controlled. "Sergeant Elias Ward, I'll be staying here for your protection." Her head tilted slightly. "Stay in here." "Yes." The Queen blinked. Her eyelids moved sideways like a shutter. "I do not require a human to share my space." "It's not about what you require," Elias said. "It's about security. Orders from the captain." She didn't answer. For a few seconds, the silence filled the air. It was not a comfortable silence. She was studying him, and he knew it. It felt like being scanned from the inside out. "You don't trust me?" she finally said. Elias met her gaze without flinching. "No, I don't, and you don't trust me either." Her thin mouth curved in something that might have been a Sereth smile. "Then we understand each other." Hours passed. Elias didn't move much. He was used to long watches, silent nights on military outposts. But being inside the same room with an alien queen was something new. Every breath she took sounded faintly different. Every movement of her limbs was unnervingly smooth. She spent most of her time by the window, or sitting on the resting platform with her legs folded in an elegant way. She seemed calm, but he could tell she was watching everything too. At one point, a message came through the intercom. A security breach in the diplomatic wing. Unknown intruder. Systems were locking down. Red lights flashed briefly at the edges of the ceiling. The doors to the Queen's quarters sealed automatically. Elias moved to the center of the room, weapon ready. "Stay behind me," he said sharply. Queen Elira didn't argue. She stood, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "The enemy approaches," she whispered. Elias didn't hear anything, but she did. Her kind had stronger senses. That made him tense but also strangely reassured. At least they shared the same goal, survival. Minutes crawled by. Then came the sound of boots in the corridor, distant shouts. And finally the captain's voice over the breach contained. "False alarm. A drone malfunctioned. But lockdown protocols remain active until engineering confirms the sector is clear." The door lights stayed red. Elias walked over to the control panel and checked the emergency alerts. The lockdown wasn't going to lift anytime soon. He turned to her. "They've sealed the wing. We're stuck in here." She didn't look surprised. "How long?" "Could be hours. Could be overnight." Her antennae twitched slightly. "This chamber has one resting platform," she said, her voice calm. "Your species requires sleep." "I'll manage," Elias said, leaning against the wall. She studied him for a moment, then returned to the window. "I see why your species survives," she said softly. "You are stubborn," he didn't reply. But her words lingered. The night on a starship isn't like night on a planet. There's no sun, no moon, only the shift of artificial lights. The room grew darker. The humming of the ship's engines became the only background sound. Elias stood guard, but after hours of silence, he finally sat on the floor with his back to the wall. Queen Elira turned from the window. "You do not rest." "Not until I have to, in the Sarath hive. No queen is ever left alone," she said. "The hive minds keep her safe, even in sleep." This silence is strange. Elias didn't expect her to talk. "You're not used to being alone?" "No," she said simply. "And you?" "I've been alone most of my life." That made her pause. Her silver eyes reflected the small lights on the ceiling. She seemed to think about that in silence. "Finally," she said, "perhaps that is why your species fights so hard. You are used to standing alone." Elias didn't know how to answer. So he didn't. But something about her words cut deeper than he wanted to admit. The temperature control in the room shifted automatically to Sarath night levels. Warm air filled the room like a soft blanket. Elias felt the weight of exhaustion on his shoulders. The Queen glanced at him, then at the resting platform. "There is room enough for two," she said carefully. "Our bodies do not touch. It is simply practical." He almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the most logical thing she could have said. "It's fine," he said. "I'll stay here." She tilted her head. Humans insist on discomfort. Strange creatures. But she didn't push. She simply lay down on the platform, folding her limbs with practiced grace. Her silver eyes dimmed slightly as she entered the light sleep of her kind. Elias stayed awake for another hour. Watching the red glow of the lockdown lights, his mind kept replaying every word she'd said. He wasn't sure why. Sometime in the early ship hours, the lights outside flickered from red to green. A message came over the Lockdown lifted. The captain's voice sounded tired. "All clear. Stand down from alert. Security teams report to your posts." Elias stood, stretching his back. He walked to the door, but it wouldn't open automatically. It was still on manual override. He pressed his badge, entered the code, and the heavy door slid open with a low hiss. The Queen rose silently. "You return to your people," she said. It was not a question. He nodded. "I'll be back at night. Orders." She blinked slowly. "Then we will see each other again."